Hello and welcome everyone. Today we'll be discussing about variables and functions. So what is a variable? A variable is pretty much a digital container that stores data or that stores information. Alright? Now the information can be in the format of a number, it can be a sentence, it can be a name. So depending on the type of information, you have different types of variables, right? So in JavaScript, the most common types of variables include strings, which consist of names, sentences, normally surrounded by single or double quotes. Right? Second type is a number. So the number can be whole numbers as well as decimals. Okay. Now, to declare a variable in JavaScript, it's very simple. You don't have to write string or int as in other languages such as Java or C#. But you can use the let keyword, the const keyword, or the var keyword. Right? Var and let are almost the same. It's recommended to use let. Const is for variables that you don't want to change. For the purpose of this lesson, as we're discussing the very basics, let's focus on let. So, as I said, that a variable is a digital container that stores information. And if you want to store, let's say, a person's name, okay, so you would store that as a string, right? So let's type this out as let name equal, we'll use a generic name over here, John Smith. All right. It's best practice to put a semicolon at the end. Okay, so variables can also be in the form of numbers. So if I want to store a number, okay, let's say we want to know the age of John Smith. So we'll write that as let age equal say that John is 20, right? Now, if I want to check what's inside of my variables, okay, a useful tool, a very helpful tool to use is the console. Okay, so to use the console, we'll write console.log, and let's see what happens when we put name. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time typing the same stuff, so paste that. Let's change that to age. And press run. Let's see what it prints out. All right, John Smith and 20. Okay, it outputted John Smith because John Smith, the string John Smith, is inside of the variable called name. All right, and this number 20 is inside of the variable called age. Okay. Now if I change this to, let's say, Bob Green, right? I change age to 35, press run. Okay, now it's outputting Bob Green and 35. So as I said, variables are pretty much digital containers that hold information, right? With the let variable, you're able to change the information or the data that's stored inside the variable. Okay, so another way to change it would be to type in the name of that variable again and reassign it a different value. Okay, let's say it's 10 years later. All right, so now this person's age is 45, right? And the name of this person went through a name change, equals Jim. Alright, so when I press the run button, what outputs, alright, it no longer shows Bob Green or 35. Okay, I changed the name Bob Green, I changed the information that's inside this variable from Bob Green to Jim, and I changed the information inside this variable called age from 35 to 45. Alright, so now it outputs Jim and 45. Okay. Now, what if I don't want the data that's inside of the variable to be changed? So instead of using the let keyword, I will use the const keyword. And in that way, the name Bob Green will remain the same, and I'll get an error if I try to change it to Jim. Alright, so let's see what happens when I press run. Alright, it stopped. The program stopped as soon as this line of code was read. Because it's a const variable, you cannot change what's inside of here. Right? So, moving on, let's discuss functions. What are functions? Functions are reusable blocks of code. Right? They're very helpful in automating complex tasks. So if we want to automatically display Bob Green's name and age, we can put that inside of a function. Alright, so let's type in first the keyword function. Okay, since this is all about this person's info, I'll name this function info. After the name of the function comes parentheses followed by curly brackets. Inside of the curly brackets is where all the logic or the executable code is written. So inside of here, I'll write, because I want to display it on the console, I'll write console.log name and console.log page. Right? And when I press run, what happens? Nothing is being displayed on the console. Why? Because I did not call the function. So to call the function, I need to write the name of the function followed by parentheses. You can put a semicolon at the end for best practice. We can discuss that later. But the way to call a function is by writing the name followed by parentheses. See what happens when I press run. So I call this function and it displayed the name and the age. Alright? Let's see what happens when I do that 4 or 5 times. Run that. So it displayed this 5 times. Alright? So a function is very helpful if you want to execute more complex tasks with using less code. So that's it for today, and that is the very basics with regards to functions.